Welcome to the Vineyard Life Podcast, a space where we have honest conversations on community, culture, and the kingdom of God. I'm your host, Brent McIntosh, and I'm glad to have you join us. Join us for another episode of the Vineyard Life Podcast. We're talking about living as an overcomer in worship and family life with Corey Brophy and David Perez. And it is an honor to have them here with us today. These guys are both men of integrity. They have led worship with great skill for many years. They are loving fathers, loving husbands, and they're just good guys. And so I'm really excited to just hang out with you guys, talk with you a little bit. And
yeah, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
It's good to have you here. So what, let's just start off. What's something that you really like about worship? Changing it up on you.
Yeah. That's good. We can go jump right into the deep end here, I guess.
Ooh.
No, for me, and I probably could say a little bit for Corey too. He'll say the same thing. It's really, just worship in the sense of music and praise is really just kind of a way to express ourselves in Christ, and there's things that you can say with words. And then there's another realm of things that you can say with actual like music in regards to worship, So I think that, shoot, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Hey, you're good.
I'll jump in. So what I enjoy in worship is obviously it's a lot of fun to get to play an instrument and use the craft that you've been practicing on for years and years and years, right? But for me, and I'll probably land on this space a lot when we talk about worship, it is so much more about the people that I'm playing music with and the relational part of that for me. Mm-hmm. Because so much of the worship, there's pros and cons to, not cons, but like there's special things that happen in corporate worship that you don't get by yourself and vice versa, right? But so much of my relational aspect with the Lord is that one-on-one time in my bedroom, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. And so when you walk out of your bedroom with your instrument and you go onto a stage in front of a bunch of people, there's a performance thing that happens there. And when you're playing with friends and there's a relational thing that's there,
that's different.
The performance thing just tends to be a lot more fun and a lot less stressful. And it's not so much about doing it well as it is having fun while we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think when
takes the pressure off of it.
Yeah. And when you're enjoying your craft in music, you add the worship element to it of why you're playing your instrument. And it just completes the whole circle of everything of why you're even playing your instrument in the first place, and that's, for the Lord. So when you get to take what you're doing in your room where it's just you and the Lord onto the stage where now it's you and your friends and the Lord, you only get special moments like that every now and then, and I would say you don't even necessarily get that all the time with your family, so to be able to have those special moments where you're connected with everybody, there's a relationship aspect of it. Like, dude, I'm taking time out of every single one of my weeks, sometimes multiple hours. I'm waking up early. I'm quote unquote, forfeiting that time and in service away from my family, away from, the things that I have extreme value in, to put value into something else. And those people need to be equally as important,
Wow. So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing you say is it's like there's a sacrifice side in it because there's the time that you're doing, but that whole thing of developing that connection with the people that you're with, it's like that's part of your communion also.
Oh, totally. And then there's the transparent part of it where like when you have trust with the people that you're with, where it's not just like you're performing a song, when you're actually connecting on a worship level, in worship, it's more than just music, you know? So that's what I enjoy about, worship. And then there's the momentary parts that I enjoy about worship, but I feel like I'm dominating the questions. So
No, this is good.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think in the sense of when we're talking about the musical aspect of worship, that's 100% how I feel too. Like just being able to connect with others in doing a singular act of worship. I think that there's enough stuff that is out there today that's going to divide people, and there's ways of thinking that is just you can vary, even small stuff that maybe is insignificant to some. But I feel like in the church, that's one of the main weapons we have to form community, And I would actually kind of offer a different opinion. I think that for me, there's it's a little bit more. It's more of a not a challenge necessarily, but there's a little bit more pressure for me worshiping in a corporate setting. And the reason why is because, especially in the leader spot where we do have to plan things, obviously we come and we practice with the team, we get everybody together. There's a lot of planning even before, let's say, Sunday morning that happens. And for me, I always have in the back of my mind, this time needs to be, we need to squeeze as much authentic, time in worship and surrender. And I need to be able to facilitate this in the allotted time that we have, And so for me, that actually is a little bit more of a pressure point where as worshiping alone, like sitting at a piano or just sitting in my room with a guitar, I don't even have to sing. I can literally just play guitar and just, sit in the presence of God, And for me, that's kind of I think the difference there. But that's a differing opinion, I think, But I do find also on the flip side of that, there's extreme comfort and there's extreme, like I said, kind of oneness when we're gathering a whole team and we're all pushing towards the one objective, and obviously the objective being just honoring God and giving him glory.
Yeah.
That's
well,
good.
and just expanding on what you're saying, it's more than just like piggybacking on it and adding some stuff from what I said earlier. Like for me on the relational part, it's not just the people up on the stage, it's the whole room.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just there to engage with the people that I'm playing music with, because the whole congregation is the band. If anything, like our role as a worship leader is to get out of the way as soon as possible and just worship. So, and probably stealing stuff from other questions later, but
Good. So we did. You said, David, about just kind of diving off the deep end. We just kind of, because we started recording earlier and had to we restarted. We had just gotten into some deep stuff. So just to regress a little, do you have any embarrassing worship stories that stand out to you, or just maybe, I don't know, lighthearted, fun?
I'm not really good with words.
Okay.
So there's a song by Chris Tomlin called "Not to Us," and I flipped the start of 2 words, and I actually ended up saying on Sunday morning, "Let the people clap their hands," and it's supposed to be clap their hands.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever recovered from that. So
That's awesome. Ooh, that's good.
yeah.
I am loaded with embarrassing stories, and that's a loaded question for me because he knows most of them.
There you go.
So,
That's true. I was thinking of a couple in particular.
oh my gosh, yeah. So we used to have wedges as floor monitors.
Yeah.
That was a
And
story.
I was like 14, maybe 15 years old, and I'm leading worship on a Sunday night. And my dad was doing sound at the time. And, he would...
Full room.
Full room of
Full room
people.
worship, yeah.
Full room of people. And we're like right in the middle of... we were playing Rain Down, right? And so every now and then he would like jump onto like a talkback mic through the wedge in a way that like people wouldn't be able to hear.
Right,
And be able to say like, hey, can you turn your guitar down a little bit? Or hey, it's a little high. You need to like turn down. So normally he's normally doing that stuff,
Discreet
right?
a little. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
It's
like,
not an in-ear, but still you could still do it moderately where you couldn't hear so much.
right. So we're going out of the bridge on Rain Down to the like a cappella part, right? And right on cue, when the whole entire band drops out, he jumps on and he goes, Corey, your zipper's down. And so I got a full room of people that are just like, staring at my fly
That's
now.
amazing. That's amazing.
That was a pretty good one.
Right?
I don't think I've had any wardrobe malfunctions.
Okay, I got a second
Yeah.
wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, no.
This was
Gosh.
not mine. Okay. So we're playing that song by Jesus Culture, Dance.
Yes.
And this is way before they recorded it. And I was probably like 16 at the time. And we're on a Sunday night again. And it's me and Josh Larson and Caleb and Michael Scullis was playing drums, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's just like super heavy kick pattern going, and he's just chugging along, and all of a sudden the kick becomes less and less frequent. And we look back and he's leaning over and he's got the drum shield in front of him so nobody can see what's going on. And Caleb looks down, he's pulling his pants back up. He had worn these skinny jeans where he would just like take a belt and like cinch it down onto his hips.
Oh my God.
And his pants had totally fallen all the way off. And he was trying to pull them up.
Oh no.
It was pretty epic.
That
A
is
literal David worship.
right, right.
Yes. Yeah.
Whoa.
We should normalize that.
Outside of
remember
the
that.
normal embarrassing stuff, which is just like you totally hit the wrong note at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was voice cracks for me.
Yeah.
The longest time is I would just be like,
You still get that.
and I still get that. Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I had one this past week.
Singing in a
It was
wrong
great.
key
I heard it.
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something.
it was great.
That's good. So, what? How do you guys like as worshipers? Thank you for those. Those are great. And that is the story with your dad that I was thinking of. Totally, I was totally thinking of that one. So, how do you guys juggle like being a worshiper, being a dad, being a husband, going to work, like just life, like as doing it all?
Yeah. I'll start this one off. I think it's one of those things, obviously kind of the redundant quote out there is do something you love and you'll never work, essentially. And I think for both of us, worship is, and especially, like I said, kind of in the sense of music and praise, that's a joy. That's a complete joy. Obviously, yeah, there are some, times where it can be a little bit overbearing to deal with family, work, all of the responsibilities, and then have to say, oh, you have to get this set together for the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I would say it's such a joy. It's just a privilege to kind of have that time where we can set apart from all the other things and be able to, kind of like Corey said earlier, just be able to express ourselves in that sense. And so I think that's kind of, my take on it. But
The question one more time.
It's just how you juggle life, all the different stuff that you have going on from, as a worshiper, husband, father.
I think it's how you set up your priorities, like, so I've been leading worship for a really long time now, right? And
You were 8th grade?
Yeah.
Right? And so how many years ago was that?
20 years.
20 years, dude.
20 years, dude. That's crazy.
Well, and real quick, I know you're in the middle of the story, but how long have you been?
yeah, so let's see. I was probably around, I want to say 13 when I really got into it. My parents, actually even all the way back to my late father, they were always in the church worship band, so I grew up in the church, all that kind of stuff. But around the age of 13 is where I had taught myself guitar. And at 13, they were just like, hey, well, why don't you just come, play with us on Sunday mornings and try it out and see if it's something that, you can connect with and grow in and stuff like that. And so it's been, let's see, 15 years for me.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So,
13 was the same for me.
mm-hmm.
So right in between 7th and 8th grade year.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think, leading worship for a really long time, I was doing worship before my wife was even on the realm of being girlfriend, So worship as a lifestyle has just been baked in, it's what you do every week, So like whether it's
just a part of life. It's what do you do? Yeah.
It's so part of the normal routine that to not have it in the weekly schedule would feel like something was wrong, So whether that's like, for instance, like Mike's house on Monday nights, right? Like I grew up getting dragged to Mike's house on Monday nights.
And maybe just a little context for people that aren't familiar with that picture. How would you just describe it in a sentence or just two?
Mike, my parents helped plant the Mission Viejo Vineyard back in 1988, right before I was born. And Mike started his home group on Monday nights in I want to say the mid-90s, 94, 95, 96, 97, somewhere in there, right? And so my parents started going to Mike's house on Monday nights, and I was like a little grom, 6, 7, 8 years old. And so going to Mike's house, getting beat up by John every week. I'm
glad you dropped that in.
He'd say that,
he's like,
But so we'd be hanging out in the garage, just like playing with all the kids, and then eventually, I get into high school, still going to Mike's house, started participating in the adult side of Mike's house, and then eventually Mike moved his home to Laguna Niguel, and his neighbor freaked out. It's like, dude, you can't be doing this. It's way too loud,
Yeah.
And so they moved it over here to the church, and then that's when they started, incorporating the band. And I think I was 18, 19 at the time. And so it was just I just started dating Rachel at the time, and I was already doing every single Monday night, and it was just sort of like a natural progression of things.
Yeah.
And then, just in high school, you're doing every Sunday morning or whatever schedule that looks like in the middle of the week with youth group, right? And then you have your normal times that you're doing it, just you and the Lord. So it's just it's a walk of life. It's not something that you balance. It's out of balance if you're not doing it.
Mm-hmm. And I think I'll add this too, is that, when you're a Christian, everything has the potential to be an act of worship, right. And so, when you ask, how do you balance all of that stuff? It's like, well, actually, technically, it's all worship, right? So you go to work, you're honoring and worshiping the Lord with doing your best, giving your all at work, obviously, and then you're also honoring on the back end with the tithing, with your family, you're honoring God and worshiping Him by basically helping uphold your end of the institution God created, like marriage, for example, and you're being a father to, let's say, your kids. And that's, again, like I said, everything is really an act of worship. And so when you say, how do you balance all of it? It's like, that's the secret. It's all worship.
Right.
So,
That's good.
Well, and talk about the kids. So we got young kids,
Yeah.
I got 6, 4, and 2. He's got 4 and 2,
yeah.
right? So much of that is just how do you father or parent kids? The secret is they just go with you,
Yeah.
Right.
So on Sunday morning, I just bring my kids along with me to sound check. They're part of it. They get to be a part of what does that do on Sunday mornings, or, in the bedroom learning a new song. It's they're just part of it, to not include
good.
them with it would be I don't know. It doesn't seem right.
it shouldn't be separate.
Right. Exactly.
It shouldn't be separate. That's the thing too, is that a lot of, and I think especially as guys too, guys naturally are this is this, that is that, But really, I think, when we're talking about having a family and having worship and all this kind of stuff. It's you really actually incorporate them in. You know, like for the last 2 Sundays, Daniel has been on stage with his little guitar.
So rad.
During sound check.
Yeah, and he's been hanging
Whoa.
out during sound
That's
check,
good.
literally just strumming along and singing.
He's doing it.
You know, and even
awesome.
too, even I'll get videos too. Like if my wife stays home from church, I'll get videos of them singing along with me on the live stream. You know, and it's like the coolest
that's
thing.
sweet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
I mean, obviously there's the physical restraints of like, hey, look, buddy, I'm drumming right now, or I have my guitar in my hand, and you're right in front of my pedal board. I need you to move. You know,
Yeah.
And it's like,
but-
Dad, I got to go potty.
yeah, and then it's the third potty trip
Right.
for you know an hour rehearsal, which has happened both Sundays, you
Right.
know, recently.
Ooh.
So there's the actual, you know, logical and physical restraint of like, hey, buddy, I actually need to separate right now because I'm trying to honor the team and I'm trying to prepare for this morning, let's say,
Right.
for example. But really, though, the thing as a whole, the scope of a whole is like he's more than welcome, and I encourage him to participate the same that I do.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
worship isn't, you know, especially music and all that kind of stuff. It's not just for adults.
No.
And I think actually, if you start it earlier, it just magnifies, you know, and you can actually have somebody.
A lifestyle of worship.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. And it seeps into, again, everything. Like it's not just the music; it literally is everything. You
That's
know,
good.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. All right. Going a little bit of a different direction here. How do you nurture romance in your marriage?
Jeez, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll jump into on this one, and I won't embarrass my wife, I promise.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
She'll appreciate that, I'm sure.
I talk to my wife all the time about what I think about her and how awesome I think she is, right? I think that's the starting point, right? I think as a husband, I'm supposed to love my wife the way that Christ loves the church, and I'm part of the church. And so if I feel like the Lord thinks that I'm amazing, how much more so should I be telling my wife that I think that she's amazing, right? And nurturing romance is mostly just being conscious about the other person and their needs first, right? And then
That's
in
good.
the process of meeting their needs, you know,
Is she a words of affirmation
no,
person? But are you like?
I totally am.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So like that's my first step because I'm not good at the other things that really like meet her in a romantic way, right? So like my wife is a quality time person, and before we had kids, acts of service wasn't so big there. It was more like physical gifts, right? But now that
so many moms.
right. But now that we've had kids, like acts of service is definitely up there. You know, like if I just take the kids for a little while and she gets alone time, like that's huge, right? Or like her and Ash will go and get their nails done, and they're just like, that is amazing. You know what I'm saying?
It's like G-rated foreplay.
Totally. Sure.
All right, we're going there. No, yeah, definitely. Before kids, I think as far as like the romance thing, you know, you would definitely have to take it further than just a conversation, you know? And I think, you know.
How do you mean?
Well, like, you know, for example, before you have kids and stuff, you don't necessarily have to have your attention split in multiple directions. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the standard of, let's say, romancing is that you have your baseline. Your baseline already includes having full conversations uninterrupted.
With coffee.
With coffee, with warm coffee, by the
Right.
way, too, not cold coffee.
Right.
And you know, there's no, you know, 3-year-old screaming because the older kid took their train or something. I don't know, you know? And so that the baseline was higher before kids, I think. Once you start throwing in kids, and I've got 2 crazy dogs, and with work and how everything is just kind of piled up, you really can go back to your root at the you know, try to meet the initial baseline, which is have an actual conversation, you know, my wife's really big right now into like just being able to talk to an adult. You know,
It's hard to find that kind of a time when you're young, when you have you're a parent of young kids.
90% of her conversations are with a 2 and a 4-year-old, you know, and then also telling the dogs stuff.
Man.
So, you know, that's kind of the thing that she's actually been very good at telling me what she needs is like, hey, I need to call, you know, I need to talk to an adult, you know? So
carving out that time for it.
Yeah.
And telling them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stands out to me as you guys are talking too is in this section, but also as we were talking earlier about the with the young kids piece, there's a foundation that's being set. Like there's a foundation that was set, like that's set in your marriage before kids. There's also that thing of there's this foundation that you guys are fighting for, even in your young kids at the same time, and how those foundations they continue to layer and build more.
Definitely.
I think so much of it is just taking time.
Yeah.
That's great. Corey.
So being very intentional about taking time and trying to make it as frequent as possible. You know, like we all get, you know, we live in Orange County, California, so it gets crazy schedule-wise here, right? And sometimes it's so easy. It's easier to just go with the schedule and stick with the routine and, you know, just ride the wave of craziness than it is to actually be intentional to take time out to do something for somebody else, to the point where people in this area feel it and notice it when you're intentionally taking time out of your schedule to do something for somebody else.
And with your wife being a quality time person, particularly in that context, like that's a huge piece that you would. I mean, you're speaking larger than that. I know, like right now, but just that you value, you honor other people's time.
Absolutely,
that way,
totally. Well, and also like, I don't know, like with young kids, like there's treasure in, you know, in fathering your kids with your wife. You know, like, because it so often is like those kids bring out the little kid in you, right? And I don't know, with me and my wife and the way that, you know, romance happens, so much of it is out of this place of encountering our kids as parents. We reflect on that together. And then
have the dialogue, the conversation about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like we have a common ground where we meet about this is who we are as a married couple. And then for me, it always comes to, hey, those kids are a byproduct of who we are together.
That seems really identity forming. Like taking out that, like it reminds me of like at the end of a youth retreat, taking space to debrief. You're like, okay, let's debrief. How did we do? Did we survive the challenge of the day with the 2 and 4 and 6-year-old? You know,
right. And so much of it too is like when you're trying to parent a kid, you realize like in that debrief, oh man, I totally messed this up, and I probably totally messed this up with you too, didn't I? You know, and realizing like, oh man, I can improve this way as a husband as well. You know, so in this season that we're in, that's been where I've been approaching things from. And, you know, my wife, she's got some physical stuff going on right now. So, you know, romance with her a lot lately looks like just picking up anything that I possibly can that helps her in any way, shape, or form on the day-to-day.
So we've got words of affirmation stuff, the quality time, and that would be like an acts of service. Like just doing, I mean, I know that, I mean, not to hammer the 5 love languages, but you are, you know, you're going after just loving well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell when their tanks are empty on certain stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think to add to Corey's and maybe put another point on it, we're in such a cinematic culture where you're the main character. And the movies tell you you're the main character. Even some songs in the church tell you you're the main character.
True.
Honestly, let's call it as it is, you know? And I think the biggest thing for me, amongst being busy, in the past, even in the past week, there's been, I shot a music video. We're planning, recording one of the songs that I wrote for the church, and, sitting here with you guys doing the podcast and stuff like that too. That's stuff that necessarily my wife doesn't tag along with me, for. And, I think that those are good things. Obviously, they're not bad things necessarily. But that can seem very much revolve around David-ish, And so I think the biggest thing, to go back, the biggest thing that I've learned especially as a father, I did kind of learn it as a husband, first getting married about 8 years ago, is that, hey, it's actually doesn't all revolve around me. It's actually,
That's like the classic single guy,
right.
lesson. You're like, wait, what?
Right. And I actually, obviously nobody's really perfect, and we do get caught up in that kind of cinematic universe.
Totally.
But
good language.
The more I focus on, hey, look, no, it's not about just me. It's about our family as a whole. It's about our team as a whole, like for Sunday mornings and Monday nights. It's about the church as a whole, even, I think that was the biggest thing for me, is just taking a step back, getting out of the situation and looking in and being like, okay, look, David, obviously, society's telling you, me, but, life is actually more enjoyable. It brings you a ton of insight, a ton of wisdom to actually have it be about others. And why did God create people, plural, if it wasn't for relation, if it wasn't for community? So that's something for me that I'm always kind of offering to people, as far as wisdom or whatever, don't want to get all philosophical, but
so taking yourself out of, I like that language, the cinematic universe, that you're the main character, and looking at, and basically looking towards others. And
well, that's what the world
others.
offers. Who doesn't? I mean, obviously, like the best movies, especially in the past 10 years, think about Marvel. It's all about these heroes and these specific people. And everything revolves around them, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. Like, yeah, maybe that's what I am too, and it's like, in reality, if you do that, you're just going to be, not able to fulfill your calling in relationships. You're not going to be able to fulfill your calling in any kind of leadership in the church, anything like that, if it's only revolving around you.
Yeah, so much
That's
of that
good.
too is like, we're not saying like give up your basic needs in that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, your basic needs are met, and now you have all this extra time on your hands. You know what I'm saying? And so what does that overflow look like? We just, in 2 years ago now, right before COVID landed, at the end of 2019, we have a PlayStation that we use for all of our streaming services and apps and all that stuff, right? And at the end of the year, it gave me a little report and averaged out how much we use the PlayStation.
Oh, that's dangerous. That's so dangerous,
dude. So we were using the PlayStation to either stream Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever for close to 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I looked at that
That's
and I was
amazing.
just like, okay, yeah, TV might be going on in the background while, Rachel's making dinner for the kids just to make sure that nobody kills themselves. You know what I'm saying? But
Or a babysitter.
or a babysitter, right? But so much of that was just like, I'm spending all of my overflow in front of a screen, and I need to make some crazy life changes because my family is spending half of every single day and with something going on in the background. And so we totally cut back on all that stuff. And so what's come out of that is an overflow of, quality time playing, kids learning how to play with each other, going outside and hanging out, learning how to do a new skill or a new craft, right?
Dude, it totally, it's a post, as you said, 2 years ago with the pandemic and all these pieces, there's something about it that reminds me of such a like a dystopian future where you're like, no, we have to just remember how to do the basics. Like, and we constantly have to like, there was this old, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was so methodical, and it was like they were playing because they had to. And it was like, oh wait, no, we need to just be able to do the basics and interactive basics where we play together.
Yeah. I guess to get back to what I was saying.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
you're
off.
good. You're totally good. Is there was all this excess time that was being spent consuming somebody else's production and somebody else's message. Right, and that was influencing my family too. Right, and so I looked at that and I was just like, I'm spending all this time consuming somebody else's thing. What happened if I turned that into being a producer myself? What if I was a creator? What if I was to take that time to be intentional about certain things, right? It's completely flipped my relationship with my whole family, totally. Yeah, just because you put intentionality, I think he's been hitting on it a ton, it's just like you put intentionality into what you do, and it shifts that entire thing. Because now it's not just an off-the-cuff, random act of service or good deed. It's like an intentional, conscious thing. And when you do that, love inhabits that thing.
You know, that is a conviction that I've seen in you your whole life. I mean, I'm sure there's times where you got stuck in the PlayStation video. I know you had the video game type places, totally. but it's always been a center that you have like gravitated back toward of being intentional. And it's something that, I don't know, something that I really admire about you.
Oh, thank you.
I had a really good question. Oh, what do you guys feel like God's been putting on your heart these days? Is there anything that you feel like he's been highlighting in particular, either just in life or in the word or anything along that line?
I can jump on this one. So I think we were just talking the other day about this actually, is this past fall, I just started doing my own private study on the life of Paul. And really what landed me there was just noticing that, like, you know, there's just in the New Testament, you get this thing where there's this call to a heart position, right? And from that heart position, then these things happen, right? And so I was just looking at this and noticing that, Paul was sending these letters to all these different people groups that he was engaged with at the time. And they all had different struggles, and they all had different successes, and they all had different needs, right? And in the midst of all those different things, he'll say something like, exult in your tribulations, knowing that perseverance builds proven character, right? And it's this thing of, no, put your heart in a position within the madness, within the problems, right? Within the things that are going on in your life. Put your heart in a place where you can, have a good heart in the midst of the battle, and watch what happens, right? You develop that proven record with the Lord, that perseverance of, I'm going to get through this with a good heart, knowing that it's going to build a proven character in my own mechanism as a human being, right? You become like a machine once you start to take that over, and knowing that proven character is going to build faith, right? That evidence of things not seen, right? And that faith is going to develop hope, that expectation of good things, and that hope is going to, fill you with the love of the Lord through His Holy Spirit, right? And it's that thing of, when you exult in your tribulations, you develop a record with the Lord of succeeding and overcoming over and over and over again, to the point where, like I said, you become a machine of just overcoming with the Lord. You start to walk into a problem and you recognize it right away as, okay, I don't have to react in a negative way here. I can look at this as an opportunity to walk this out with the Lord.
But there's, like, in the way you're talking about it, it's like there's a refining that's in you that helps you to recognize, just to see, because you were coming back to that word, a machine, and it's like there's a thing that, there's like a refining in you. You see things with a different vision.
Right. And the machine part of it is not like it's heartless, but it's almost just like you don't even have to think about it. There's no thought that goes into having a good heart in the midst of the problem. Right.
It's just practice. It's a response, So, for musicians, there's what we call muscle memory, And why do guitarists how are they able to just riff fast and just do all these things at the drop of a pen? How do drummers remember exactly where to put your, what drum to hit at what time? It's all just muscle memory from practice, and I think that's kind of a practical metaphor, for what Corey's talking about. Go ahead.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say on that too, because we were talking about that the other day, and and that's one of my favorite passages about the suffering. Different translations, suffering produces perseverance.
Right,
it goes through that whole series. But out of the conversation you and I had on that verse, then today, as I'm driving my kids to school, that kicked in the back of my muscle memory, I guess, and my, you just kind of gets reactivated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to them about this verse. And we ended up having this whole conversation kind of layered off of, because you and I had that conversation the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to me how sometimes the Lord does that. Like he'll build off of what we're already doing. So what about for you, David?
Yeah. Obviously right now it's situational. So there's two things. Is one, kind of reacting to the way the world is right now. Especially, obviously I think the biggest thing on everybody's mind, even according to polls, is just COVID, and what the effect was that. The effect was not only on, let's say, an individual's life, but on government, on thought, on kind of reaction to something that massive, that big on a large scale. And so it's reactionary in the sense that that's inspiring me to and motivating me to kind of train up my kids in the sense that, this world is obviously, it's fallen. It's not, it's unfortunate. I'm finding out more and more as time goes on, and as I get older, and I keep learning things that, like, dang, dude, there's some wicked people out there, And so for me, my conviction right now is trying to train up my kids to be like, instead of, to bring this back, not a Marvel hero, but like a Bible hero, So Daniel, Joshua, those are my kids' names. And for a reason, a good reason, obviously, And so, obviously, I try to model my life, and I try to remind my kids of, first and foremost, Jesus, obviously, but also, the characters and the real people that are also in the Bible that were courageous or were persistent and faithful. Yeah, even in the small things, And
That's
so
really good.
that's my conviction right now, is just, like I said, it's somewhat, I guess you could say it's like a response to where we are currently and the current temperature and climate and in the political and the, but that's kind of.
It's challenging to do.
It's hard. Yeah, totally.
I had when Rachel and I first got married, I was working at Starbucks and I was coaching volleyball, and I was, we were making it. We were not making a lot of money, and we were just barely making it, but we were making it, I wouldn't say we were thriving, but we weren't less than surviving. We were happy, and I remember just thinking, God, I don't want to just survive, I want to thrive. And what does that take? What does that look like? And, it took pressing into him to finally get an answer a little bit, And I remember just so clearly he spoke to me. He said, Corey, if you would just do everything that you have in front of you with excellence and a good heart, I will take care of everything else for you.
Right.
Whoa.
Right. So it was a good heart and excellence. So it was every ability that I had to do my best with a good attitude, with a good mindset, with a good perspective of, I'm just going to do this to the best of my ability, and I'm going to have fun doing it. And I'm going to enjoy the people that I'm with while I do it. And he's going to take care of the rest. And he's been faithful since that promise, you know.
That's good.
And he brings people into my life that, you know, I don't realize at the time that are really what I need to become the next better version of myself. I know that's not the most eloquently said, but it's just like the Lord brings people into your life to move you into the next greater thing he has for you, you know. And it's not you're looking for those people. Are you that's not it at all. It's excellence and a good heart with the people around you, you know, and not to get things out of people. It's just out of that overflow of being intentional with what you have going on. And then it just happens. It's not, there's no formula to the madness. It's just love God, love people, and do everything you can to the best of your abilities, you know. And then it's just 1%, you know. It's just, okay, I got 1% better at this today. I got 1% better at that today. And you're not looking for huge jumps of improvement as a person, because so much of that you can't even recognize. It's only like after reflecting on it for like a year or two that you can look back and go, wow, the Lord really did work in me.
Right. Like watching the grass grow, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if you don't,
you go back and you see like how much.
But if you have that heart position at the beginning, then, dude, it totally takes care of itself. Yeah, like, because you're not worrying about failure, you're not worrying about any of that stuff. You're just, this is what I can do today. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities.
That's a good summary. I feel like, you know, as you guys have been sharing, I just continue to remember how I just admire these qualities in you guys, because I feel like in the conversations that we've had and the ways that you guys talk about things, I feel like you really communicate a lifestyle of transparency, contending for that. And in all these different arenas, I feel like you guys have really gone after those elements of what it means to be an overcomer. You know, in those spaces, I'm hearing you say, like, in those spaces with the Lord, fighting for that one-on-one time, fighting for your families, with your spouse, and then also with your kids, but also in the community as the people that you're with, whether they're on the stage or out in the, you know, or just whoever you're worshiping with, whoever you're doing life with. It's not just music, but these are all like having this kind of a lifestyle of priorities. It really goes after just being an overcomer. So.
Well, I'll say this too. I know we're a little bit over on time, but I mean, I can go all night. It's fun hanging out with you guys.
You too.
But you know, I'll speak for myself. Maybe I'll let Corey speak for himself.
Maybe.
I miss the mark.
Maybe.
I totally miss the mark sometimes.
Is anyone good?
Right? Yeah, right. I know. I almost feel bad. You know, you're saying, David, you're such a cool guy. You're so good. I'm like, is anybody good? I don't know. You know. But yeah. So, you know, obviously, yeah. There are some times where, and I'll see too, that dang, I totally hit the target right there. Like, boom. Like, you know, I spent some time with my wife. I was excellent to the kids. I did my best at work. And then there's days where it's like, oh man, I didn't do anything right today.
Totally, yeah.
You know? And but the cool thing about serving our God, you know, the one true God, is that there's an endless amount of grace, you know, and the people that serve alongside you, the grace extends from them as well, you know, and that's the one big thing. You know, sometimes I feel bad for my wife because I'm all over the place sometimes, you know, and sometimes she'll be talking and I'll just be like, what, you know, and it's just like, you know, so she has a lot of grace for me in kind of the walk of life that we're in right now. And I've even been trying to instill, and I see it, which is crazy because my kids are only, you know, 2 and 4, but in my older son, Daniel, I see that he gives me grace sometimes, you know, which is odd because, yeah, I'm his parent, I'm his boss, you know, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, when I mess up and, you know, there's maybe I'm a little bit too quick to discipline him or something like that, or maybe I'm not the kindest. he's very forgiving and he has a ton of grace.
So convicting.
And that's something that,
totally makes you want to get right when you're like,
I know when I could see my 4-year-old son, has better moments than me. I'm just like, oh man, but, and I will give 100% credit, obviously, to just, the Holy Spirit empowering my wife and myself, in that kind of scenario, and like I said, I think everybody obviously misses the mark at certain points, but just kind of like Corey was saying, 1%, moving forward 1%,
continuing to grow.
And the thing is that a day sometimes seems like the longest thing ever, but really in the grand scheme of things, even if you inch forward every single day, that's 365 inches, and that's 1 year. So, really it does add up, and just being faithful. Obviously the Bible says, being faithful, when you're faithful in the small things, that shows that you will be faithful in the larger things. And not only that too, but the Bible also says, to him, what does it say? It says, to him who is faithful with little, much is given, right? I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But so like Corey said, you're not going to see instant success overnight, and you're not going to see instant improvement overnight. But if you're continually faithful in serving the calling that you have, the structure that God has placed from the beginning of creation, before the foundation of the earth, God has put in place a structure, and that's for family, that's for relationships, for God, serving God. When you try your best and do those things faithfully, it's going to automatically come.
That's good.
You're going to see results.
Well, so much of that too, if I'm going to jump in here and really go off the deep end here, is like I hear you saying that, and in the back of my head, I'm going, well, Dave, that's like super cool for you, but how the heck am I supposed to recognize those things in my life? You know what I'm saying? And whenever I think back on those things, that's where I really land in just treasuring relationship, like true relationship with other people, because the people that you have in your life that are able to tell it to you straight of like, dude, you did this and it messed me up on this side like this, and to value the relationship enough and be humble enough to make a change. I think that's those spaces where it happens, right? When I have real friends, like I would consider somebody a friend that I trust enough and equally trust me back, and we have a relationship to where they can step into my life and hold me accountable to the word, and they can go, Corey, this is what you've been doing, man, and this is what the word says, and I want to help you get back into alignment with this, right? And the people that are able to tell it to me straight, I treasure those people. Those people in my life are like the most valuable resource that you could ever have as a human being to becoming better at being you, And
I'm hearing you say it too. It's circling back to growth. It's all about, having those people that are gonna, call you out on those things. That's where you have that space to then. It is one of those spaces where you can grow.
Right.
And so, I want to. We're out of time, but I wanted to see, would you guys? I just want to ask if you guys would do like a blessing prayer over the people that are listening to the podcast, and particularly, I don't know, just the impression that I had was if you guys are good with it, I wanted to see if you guys would maybe actually do like a father's blessing over anybody that's listening, because these are so many areas that I just for a lot of different reasons, but I feel like they're just on the Father's heart. I don't know, would that be okay?
Yeah, totally.
Can I say no?
one thing? Can I say one thing first? So like a father's blessing, that's like interpreted so differently from a lot of different people. And for me, like fathering is like bringing people along with you as you go. So like for me to give somebody a father's blessing, it's inviting them to do life with me, and simultaneously for any sort of success that I've had in my life to be a covering over them as well, and for, basically my ceiling to be their floor, right? So praying out of that perspective, I think, is what, for me, that's what that means, right? So I could jump in that. So Father God, I just pray that you would release just the ability to see the small little things that are growing in each person that's listening, God, or watching. And just the small little things of just having their heart in the right spot. God, I pray that you would give people the opportunity and the ability to recognize that this is the time to put your heart in the right place at the right moment with the right attitude, Father. And God, would you make the growth known to them? Would you show yourself to everybody? And God, I pray that for the people that maybe don't have father figures in their lives, God, or maybe are lacking that accountability from a father figure, God, I pray that you would pour out your spirit into them, Jesus, that you would release the Father's love on their lives right now, Jesus, and that you would just make yourself known in a radical way. And God, I just want to invite, people to do life together well, and to hold each other to the Word, and not to what the world says the Word says, but what the Word says as what the Word says, God. And that all accountability would flow out of that place, Jesus.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Vineyard Life. Click subscribe and follow us to encounter more on community, culture, and the kingdom of God.